not my question. My question was, what became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're...
Today's Senate hearing turned into a full-on clash between Pam Bondi and Senator Whitehouse. And honestly, Bondi stayed composed, precise, and completely steady throughout it all. Whitehouse came in clearly trying to press her hard with a series of pointed questions, expecting to catch her off guard. But Bondi kept her answers tight, didn't waver, and seemed fully prepared for every angle thrown at her. At times, it felt like he was trying to force a breakthrough moment, but she just kept redirecting with control and confidence. The back and forth stayed intense, but she never looked shaken. Before we get into the details, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more of these major Senate hearing moments.
Became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review
different question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Mr. Whitehouse, excuse me, Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you, can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr.
Never mind.
Homan
I can
was
see I'm not going to get a straight answer from you to a very simple
by
question.
the FBI agents and the DOJ.
Do
They
you know-
found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and you rail against dark money. Yet you work with dark money groups all the time, Senator Whitehouse.
Did you know whether or not in that investigation they looked at whether the 2024 $50,000 payment to Mr. Homan was declared by him on his tax returns?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. So Kash Patel told this committee that his grand jury testimony after immunization, after initially pleading the Fifth, was, and I quote, sealed by the Department of Justice. How and when and why was his testimony sealed, and by whom?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss any testimony, especially testimony that could be sealed with you.
No, the question is, was it or was it not sealed?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss that with you.
Well, he also said that he worked with the Department of Justice to have his transcript released publicly. How and when was his transcript released? Presumably, if he released it publicly, that's something you can discuss because it's public.
Well, Senator, I believe you discussed that with Director Patel.
And I'm asking you because he said the Department of Justice made this decision and you run the Department of Justice.
I would refer that to Director Patel.
Even though you run the Department of Justice and he testified that the Department of Justice released his transcript publicly.
If it is released publicly, we will get you a copy, Senator, gladly.
If, being a rather important word there, when your FBI director testified that that was a fact. Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
And Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at zero of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from...
Senator Whitehouse opened the hearing like a detective in a crime drama, except it quickly became clear he didn't quite have a clean script to work from. He kept pressing the same line of questioning about what happened to $50,000 allegedly delivered to Mr. Hmon in a paper bag. Pam Bondi remained composed throughout, consistently stating that the Department of Justice found no evidence of wrongdoing. Whitehouse circled back to the same question again and again. Where did the money go? Did he keep it? Did the FBI recover it? While Bondi gave the same steady answer each time. The exchange started to feel repetitive, with him trying to corner her and her refusing to move off her position. He then shifted to whether Mr. Hmon had reported the $50,000 on his taxes. Bondi didn't react emotionally. Instead, she redirected attention by pointing to concerns raised about the senator's own political connections and financial influences tied to donations involving his wife. The tone of the room shifted as the line of questioning lost momentum. The discussion then moved to Kash Patel and sealed testimony. Whitehouse questioned who sealed it, why it was sealed, and how it was handled, almost as if there were hidden mechanisms behind it. Bondi repeatedly directed him to address Director Patel directly, maintaining the same calm stance while he continued pressing. The back and forth became increasingly circular, with little progress made. Next, Whitehouse brought up Epstein-related matters, referencing suspicious activity reports and asking why certain issues hadn't been investigated. Bondi responded by pointing back to concerns involving Epstein associates connected to political circles, which effectively shut down that line of questioning. When he attempted another claim involving alleged photos and Trump, Bondi refused to engage with speculation and instead criticized selective handling of related materials, shifting focus back to broader oversight issues. At that stage, The exchange had clearly lost its edge, with Whitehouse struggling to gain traction and Bondi maintaining control of her responses without deviation. Finally, Whitehouse raised concerns about threats against federal judges. Bondi responded directly and practically, stating she would coordinate a meeting with the U.S. Marshals Service to review the matter in detail. By the end, most of the attempted pressure points had either been deflected or redirected, with Bondi keeping a steady, controlled approach throughout the hearing.